Okay, I should be live. Because I'll just give people a moment to trickle in. And I will make the announcement on Discord. Okay. Okay. Anyone here yet? Probably not. Oh, there are 3 live viewers according to YouTube. And why is nobody saying anything in the live chat? Somebody say something, just so I know that things are working as they should. Ah, damn. YouTube wants me to sign in again. I literally just signed in. Just to access the live stream, but then it's wanting me to sign in again in order to partake in the chat. Oh, hey, there are 2 people. Yeah, okay, great. How's my audio? I think there's a bit of noise. I will just see if I can fix that by turning up the the floor for the noise filter. And meanwhile, you can all just, you know, start asking questions or whatever. Let's see, denoise a classic. Let's just... Okay, try turning up this amount. This is, I'll just check with the monitor on, I guess. Okay, it could use being a bit higher, the noise floor. Wait. Yeah, I think it's cut out a bit. Okay, let's try minus 52 decibel. It's a bit too low still. Okay. No, that was too high. Okay. This is about the best I can do where noise is concerned. Turn off the audio monitor so I'm not constantly being confused by that. Wait. So yeah, okay. The middle woman's voice could be cry mixed frenulum or falsetto. No, so middle voice is another term for falsetto. I just use them as a synonym. So usually when I speak of middle voice as a whole, I will call it falsetto, and when I divide it into upper and lower middle voice, I will, you know, call it that. And that's to stress that these terms are actually synonymous. There are people who think falsetto needs necessarily be breathy, like who think that is falsetto, and that, you know, is middle voice. But actually, these are the same register. It's, you know, one is breathy and the other is not. Yeah, that's falsetto, also known as middle voice. It's the same thing. Head register is higher in pitch than that. If I do, I don't need this anymore now that I'm not monitoring myself. It's like a change in quality there, right? That's middle voice. That's a head register. So yeah, that's the difference. So yeah, I will not call mixed voice or pharyngeal voice or falsetto I will call middle voice, but yeah, cry, mixed voice, and pharyngeal voice I will not call those middle voice. It's only 2 viewers. This is not a lot. I had hoped I'd get some more viewers, but we'll see if maybe there'll be some more people will trickle in, hopefully. So yeah, anyone have any questions or song requests? And you can also, like, doesn't necessarily have to be vocal questions. You can ask questions about, you know, my life or my views on something or whatever you feel like asking me about. But if they're using cry, then they're using cry. If they're using makes, they're using makes, etc. Right? So yeah, I wouldn't. So middle voice is just, it's just a register term, much like cry register and mixed voice and pharyngeal voice. All of these are register terms. So yeah, it's really pretty slow start to this live stream. Hopefully I will get some more people trickling in. But maybe it's because it's been a long time before I had a live stream, or because I didn't announce it very far in advance. Only announced it like 16 hours ago. Oh, well, not really. Things are not going so great on that front, but probably best not to talk too much about family issues. It's like, I mean, it's the problem is it's a very long. Well, I guess the problem is really just that it's like it's a feud. It's a family feud. You can ask me like family questions, but probably best not to talk about family feuds. So yeah. But yeah. Wonder how many people are online on the server. There's 26 people. So yeah, it should be enough to to power a stream. People are coming in, but not really seeing a lot of people joining. Well, we're at 4 people now. That's something. But yeah, I guess I can start singing something or other, and maybe that will inspire people to have some questions. What shall I start singing? Just to, I don't know, Ashes or something, which I already know the accompaniment to. That's a problem. I don't really have, don't know the piano accompaniment to particularly many of the songs I sing. So I guess I could like get out as a karaoke track, but it's too much, I know. So. What's left to say? These prayers ain't working anymore. Oh, what was the most challenging coordination? That would be, for me, that would probably be pharyngeal voice. Still not quite as reliable as I'd like it to be. Pharyngeal voice or pharyngealized mix, one of those two. There's stuff with a lot of pharyngeal narrowing, and there's some that are still more challenging for me that I haven't learned yet, which include whistle register, for example, and chest fry mix. I also haven't learned. So yeah, there are some coordinations I still haven't got the hang of. But yeah, of the coordinations I know how to use. The hardest would be pharyngeal voice, right? Like hang on. This one. Very close to falsetto. Where you can transition between falsetto and that. And that took me ages to learn. Well, I mean, I guess it didn't take me. It took me ages before I learned it, but once I actually started learning it, it didn't take very long. The one that like I spent that I was stumped by for a long time and like start practicing, which is regular old mixed voice. It's interesting because most of my students are just stuck in mixed voice and have a lot of trouble getting anything fuller density. But I was stuck in fuller density and I had a lot of trouble getting anything mixed voice. I was getting this like twangy chord register that was sort of masquerading as mixed voice. I'm not sure I can still do that, but I guess I could try. I think. Just. Oh, just a small town girl living in a lone. I can't really do it. I was getting this chord register that was resembling mixed voice. It lacked the this restrained quality, right? Just a small town girl living in a lonely world. I mean, nowadays I wouldn't sing this song in mixed voice. I would I would make it more open, of course, like the original. But I used to sing it this way, and I was stuck with with an unrestrained quality even when I closed the mouth. So yeah, is there anything that could get in the way of proper twang? There's number of things really, but the main one is holding back too much. A lot of people are holding back a lot, and that gets in the way of proper twang. So instead of talking like that, right, which is proper twang, they'll be talking more like this. There's like this sort of throaty, strangled, garbled sound, right, and that prevents them from adding very much twang. There's a bit of twang, but it's not a lot, right. Right, it needs a certain carelessness, right? It needs a certain just going for it, and like a certain quality of just going for it and not caring too much about the result. Yeah, it helps to sing songs with a lot of attitude. One of the best songs for getting this quality is "I Will Survive." At first I was afraid, I was petrified, kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. Right? And you want to make sure you're not doing, at first I was afraid, I was petrified, this is not getting whiny like this. Right? At first I was afraid, I was petrified. Other songs like this would be Anastasia, another great person to study for sharp twang. Especially for like cranial twang, for like in the high range. So that could be some there. Come on, be a man about it. You'll survive. True that you can work it out, alright. Tell me yesterday, did you know I'd be the one to let you go? And you know, that's very sort of. I didn't really give it enough attitude here, actually. My energy level was too low. Didn't take time to probably get in the zone. But it's a song with a lot of attitude. Actually, I'll do that part again. Alright. Tell me yesterday, did you know I'll be the one to let you go? And you know. Right, it's very sharp, very very sassy. All of that helps with really getting the twang. You gotta like bring the confidence. And if you're like doing this in a shy manner, you'll basically be removing all the twang. If you go up in pitch and you're sort of afraid of the notes, for example, you'll be removing all the twang on the way up, which is basically the opposite of what you want to do. You want to add twang as you go up in pitch. So yeah. Anything else that's really the main thing that would get in the way of proper twang. It's any kind of shyness, timidity, fear of the high notes. All of that would tend to get in the hang of twang. There's this in classical singing. There's this tendency of people to think up and over when they go into the passage, right, and they're producing these dark, spacious qualities. That removes some of the twang. So Salvatore Fisichella uses, or Fisichella, I think it's pronounced actually, uses this picture of a bifurcation. So instead of up and over, it's up and back and forwards, and these are sort of separate directions of your attention, right? You're thinking, these are basically attitudes. These are things you're imagining, right? You're imagining the sound shooting back, and you're imagining sending it forwards. So sound shooting back like that adds a lot of like space in the back. It raises the soft palate a lot. The forwards image adds a lot of twang. If you sort of combine those two up and over, which is what most people do, it will add only a moderate amount of each. Right? So if I do up and over, if I do that bifurcation, let me see. There's a lot more intensity there. Right? So it really works. This image works a lot. even though I never feel like I can trust it for some reason. It's like I'm always hesitant to do it. I'm like, am I gonna mess this up? But I actually don't tend to. So there's that. I feel that in order to produce the sound required in what I do, my lower pharynx has to be a bit spacious. Oh, I have hiccups. My lower pharynx has to be a bit spacious. Is this maybe because of a low larynx or something else? So I think it's more the upper pharynx that's gonna have to be spacious. It's like well, I don't know. I guess both because you're doing call register. So yeah, it's like if you have this kind of that kind of dark call-like quality. This has a fairly open pharynx, and that's just inherent to this kind of registration, to this, through spacious call register. If you were to take this high, it will go increasingly twangy, and that's why it's not really taken high in Byzantine choral music. It's like you wouldn't take it really high, because at that point it gets twangy like a belted note. At that point you'd be going basically in this direction. Yeah, messed up the first one, but you'd be going in this direction where it gets sharper and more operatic sounding. The first one was an attempt to get it properly operatic, but I was under-energizing it, so I went for a contemporary style. But yeah, this is what you'd use for like belting out, I don't know, defying gravity, for example. So if you care to find me, look to the western sky. As someone told me lately, everyone deserves a chance to fly. And if I'm flying solo, at least I'm flying free. To those who'd ground me, take a message back from me. Tell them how I am defying gravity. I'm flying high, defying gravity, and soon I'll match them in renown. Right? That's what you use for belting out high notes. You'd use this kind of twangy call register, but you wouldn't really use that in choral music because it's too sharp. It just sounds like solo singing. What do you think of the claim made by some people that falsetto and whistle register are disconnected? I think that's not inherently the case. You can do a connected falsetto, like yeah, right. That's a connected falsetto. It has a sense of a core in it. Also, you can do a disconnected chest voice, right? I don't feel any connection there, right? I don't feel like I have that core in the sound. If I wanted to add that, I'd do a fry on that probably. There's a connected chest voice, right? As opposed to, there's a disconnected chest voice, right? So that sense of connectedness, I'd say, is mostly just about the amount of LCA activity. Although the idea that whistle register is disconnected is strange to me, because whistle register practically requires that LCA activity. So I don't really see how you could do a disconnected whistle register. So I mean, I only know like how to do inwards whistles, and sometimes I fail at that. So I'm not really an expert on whistle register. So yeah, any more questions? Anything you want me to demonstrate or like explain the acoustics of, or as I said earlier, personal questions are fine too. If you want to get to know me on that front, favorite movies, books, that sort of thing. But yeah, I guess I can. What can I demonstrate that will have broad interest? Oh yeah, actually, so there's this there's these like distinct similarities between registers that occupy similar ranges. They don't necessarily make them the same register because they're not necessarily continuous with each other. But if you have a falsetto, for example, there's the upper and lower middle voice, right? The lower middle voice is open, and then there's the upper middle voice, which is closed, right? I was teaching Part of Your World earlier today, and there's how does it go? Yeah. Don't remember it. Unbelievable. No, that's not the one. I never knew, but how does it go? The part I'm thinking of. There's like a B flat on an A vowel. I'll just have to look up the lyrics. Part of Your World. No, not Part of Your World. Whole New World. That's the one. Similar titles. There it is. I can go back to where, right? So I'm on where, I'm closing it. I'm not singing where, I'm singing where. I can go back to where. And I could keep it open. Wow, wow. But then it sounds more like, then we're veering towards glam metal or something. This is the difference between lower and upper middle voice, right? I can go back to where I used to be. Where I. Now this is not just in falsetto. You see the same change in when belting, right? Right? Or often in this range, people will switch from a call register to mixed voice. Right? So there's this sort of pathway that is fairly constant regardless of the register you're using, right? In the bottom, you're probably going to be using chest register. But even if you're doing mixed voice, it's going to lean towards chest register here. Here it leans towards call register. And there it's sort of more its own thing. And you see that pathway in mixed voice, you see it also in chest voice. It's the same change in vocal tract shaping. Not exactly the same. They actually do differ a bit, but there's this overall similarity that's basically pitch dependent. Anyway, let's see. I've heard whistle registers disconnected and flageolet isn't. That's how some people seem to differentiate them. How do you differentiate them then? So I would say like flageolet has less of shortening of the effective length of the vocal folds, right? So both of these are defined by are at least strongly characterized by the vocal folds not vibrating in the full length. In flageolet, they usually vibrate in about 2/3 of their length, and in whistle register, it's usually about 1/3. But I'd say like the really big difference is acoustic. In flageolet, you're going to be either tuning F2, H2, or you're going to be clustering the first and second resonance around the fundamental. In whistle register, you're tuning the second resonance, so the vowel frontness, to the note you're singing. Anyway, how to not break the voice from overdrive to curbing. If the voice is breaking when you're going from overdrive to curbing, this suggests to me that your curbing may actually be a falsetto, because like going from overdrive to curbing should basically just be this. Oh, oh, right? Oh, or even keeping the same vowel. Oh, oh, right? And it should be fairly easy to do this, especially if you do it in this range. You know, notoriously it gets a little bit more difficult if you take overdrive quite high, right? If you do oh, and you try to go higher than that. You know, a lot of people will say, oh, you're in trouble there because it's too late to make the switch, right? They say this will happen. Oh, you know, it's like it's getting impossible to take it higher. Oh, you know, actually it doesn't. You can just do that wasn't very elegant. Let me try again. Yeah, it is a bit trickier, but the point is it's not impossible at all. Oh, I've risen in pitch. That would be why. Risen in pitch without being aware of it. Right? You know, it can be done. This should be pretty easy if you have a well-coordinated curbing. Like if it's cracking, that suggests to me that maybe instead of curbing, you're doing something like oh, 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 which is a squeaky falsetto. Oh, 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 right? Oh, oh, there's a crack there. Oh, that wasn't there. That maybe if I make it slightly less squeaky, you'll be able to tell. Oh, 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 oh. I keep getting the transition smooth involuntarily. But point is, you're probably in falsetto instead of curbing there, and that would be what's causing the crack. Anyway, tuning in after having a bit of a break. Nice to see you back. You know, we've been missing you. We've missed you. Is that the phrase? I know. What exactly is connected, by the way, here? Is that the same as creaking? Yeah, so I would say that this sense of being connected comes from creaking. That's what Salvatore Fisichella called narrowing the pharynx, keeping the pharynx narrow, right? Not the pharynx, the larynx narrow, narrowing the larynx, right? That kind of quality. Right, this kind of thing, which helps a lot with singing a high in pitch. It has its own disadvantages though, so I wouldn't recommend. I do recommend relying on this for your high notes, but I don't recommend relying solely on this. Because if you rely solely on this, that's where you get in serious danger of squeezing spirals. So you wanna have other things to rely on as well, because you can do. You can do this connected slide without any voice cracks by just squeezing really hard. But you also want to actually rely on your vocal tract shaping to make those high notes more efficient. So instead of or let's say which is getting too squeaky, you want something more like right, which is also way easier to take high. So yeah, how do I make my second and third octave M1 smoother? I find my falsetto can be quite smooth in both pitch and timbre, but M1 can have a judderiness unless it's a vowel like E. So this is an important hint, basically. The vowel like E, the E vowel is basically the one that forces you the most to get low twang, right? If you have like an E, if you have, let's say you have an R first, and the R is too dark, right? And it's a little bit juddery because, you know, there's no like substance to the note. And that makes it hard to sustain. You know, if you switch to E, it becomes more substantive. That's the low twang, right? You want to get that back in the ya, ya, e, o. And the o, to get it in the back vowels, you need to labialize a lot. You need to really articulate with the lips a lot. Right? Yeah, that's and if you sing a song in chest register, you'll see that the mouth is moving like crazy. Right? If I do proud of your boy, I'll make you proud of your boy. Believe me, bad as I've been, you're in for a pleasant surprise. Right? Or I don't know, like how does it go? I will beat the odds, I can go the distance, I will face the world, fearless, proud, and strong. You know, the lips are articulating like crazy there, which wouldn't be the case in mixed voice as much, right? I will beat the odds, I can go the distance, I will face the world, fearless, proud, and strong. You know, the lips are more tending in the relaxed position there. Whereas for chest voice, fearless, proud, and strong. And then yeah, so if you're getting this judderiness, it's probably a kind of insubstantiveness to your voice. You need to make it more substantive, and that's done by adding more TA activity, more low twang, more all of that. Slightly lower larynx helps, but you got to keep the larynx low without losing the frontness of the tongue, right? If you lower the larynx, the most easy way to do that is if this is a tongue, you know, it's just yanked down like that. Let's do it the other way around. So this is a tongue, and this part is the larynx, right? And you want to avoid that, right? That move is basically this move. Right? You want to avoid that in the low range because this takes out like a lot of the fullness. You need the tongue position associated with low twang, but you can sort of stretch that distance. I can't do this with my arm, of course, because my arm has a certain length, but you can like lower the tongue while keeping, lower the larynx while keeping the tongue up. And that's how you lower the larynx in chest register. So let's take here for an example. The tongue lowers a bit on this vowel actually. Let's try an right? You can see the front of the tongue lowers, but the back stays up. Or at least as much as I can, right? If I lower the back of the tongue, then suddenly I'm in the spaces quality, and the spaces quality isn't that strong in this range. It becomes stronger higher up, right? Up here, there I can do a strong spaces quality, but down here, you know, it's just, it's dopey. There's actually there's a video by Jaron Manhutu as an authorized VT teacher who's teaching somebody to do overdrive, and he's demonstrating the O vowel like this, right? Very dopey O vowel, right? Which is basically what we need. You know, we don't need you know, it doesn't really work. We do need the dopey kind of sound to get a well coordinated call register, right? This kind of sound, that's basically call register, right? And you would never speak in this quality. It sounds really crazy down here. But as soon as the pitch goes up, and once it reaches this range especially, it starts just sounding like a dark shout and less like a dopey voice. So yeah. Anyway, the bifurcation tip is really cool. We'll try. Glad you liked it. And it works in Voce Piena in Testa as well, right? So you can do Let's see if I can manage this. I only manage this sometimes, but. Didn't manage it. Let me try again. Yeah, I can't do this right now. But it works in Voce Piena Ancestor as well, and you just have to like figure it out yourself or trust me on it or something. It still works in Voce Piena Ancestor, but it's way harder to do there. Actually, that's why I kind of would like some tenor arias that go into the passaggio, but not above the passaggio. But anyway, I guess I meant about the LCA activity. Is LCA equal to creaking / creak unsaid? Well, not exactly, no. You can do so if in order to find the increased LCA activity, the creaky unsaid is usually very helpful, right? If I do, but once I have found it, I can just do a glottal unsaid and keep it. Right? And if you're good at it, you can just do that without having to find it first. And it still has that creaky quality. I can even turn it up like this until the note falls apart. Right? And that's so LCAs are partly responsible for creaking. Actually, LCAs are not the only things that can this. There are some cases where you can get creaking purely by changes in supraglottic acoustics. But the LCAs are definitely a large part of getting creaking. But you can also add a lot of LCA activity without getting creaking, right? This is a lot of LCA activity. It's also a lot of pharyngeal narrowing. These tend to go together a bit, but they don't have to, right? I can do I don't know, something like that. But that's getting into some very inefficient territory, and yeah, not necessarily the way I'd prefer to use my voice. But yeah. What are the factors that come into play when my voice sounds and feels better for singing on some days and not so much on? I'm getting into a mini creaking spiral here, just from mini squeezing spiral here, just from. So I just gotta do some low notes or something to get back out of it. Ga 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 ga. Yeah, I'm still a bit in the creak in the. Now I'm calling it a creaking spiral. I'm still a bit in the squeezing spiral, but that helped. That helped somewhat. What are the factors that come into play when my voice sounds and feels better for singing on some days and not so much on others? That's usually about the amount of energy in your face and vocal tract. These are really the main culprits. If you're like feeling like this, energy level is just low. You're sort of trying to like wake yourself up a little bit, but not quite going all the way there. Right? It's still. Right? You're trying to sing like this. I will be the odds. I can go the distance. I will face the world, fearless. All right, you need to get into that hyperactive state, this sort of crackhead energy, or the like one of the chipmunks from Alvin and the Chipmunks, but in the Forerunner movie to that, the one that introduced the characters, at some point gets coffee. And yeah, like becomes really hyperactive. You want that kind of energy, right? What was it? I will be the odds. I can go the distance. I will face the world, fearless, proud, and strong. I will please the gods. I can go the distance. This kind of hyperactivity is very important for high-pitched singing. I guess lower down, well, it's less the case, but you still need something like this. And it's really about the energy relative to the pitch. If your energy levels in general are sort of reluctant to come up, then you keep undershooting the energy level you need for a given pitch. And that's still going to mess you up, even if you're singing a relaxed song. Like, I don't know. The autumn, if I'm like, The autumn leaves. The autumn. No, it's the falling leaves. The fallen leaves drift by my. This is too dead. The fallen leaves drift by my window. You know, you need like an animated face full of life, even in this range. It's just less hyperactive. Up here, it's hyperactive. Down here, it's just animated, but it does need to be animated. And if your face is like this, and your vocal tract, the energy level in your vocal tract usually goes hand in hand with the energy level in your face. So if your face is like this and your vocal tract is like this, you know, singing is just going to be really difficult. But if you're like this, then you can sing. Right? And that's a useful skill to learn, to be able to get into this this state anytime you want, to be able to just snap into this energetic state. And the ideal time to practice this is a time when you feel least like doing this, or it just seems like most like a pain more than at any other. That's a great time to practice it, because you'll feel the resistance. You'll feel like your body's resistance to do this, and just know you get familiar with what that is, what the resistance is, and how much pepping up you need to overcome it. So yeah. So a time when you're feeling sluggish, didn't get enough sleep, you're a little bit sick with the flu or something, that's a great time to practice this skill. So, wait, am I still live? Because I just got an error message that says YouTube is not responding. So somebody please confirm that you can still see what's going on here. While I'm waiting for somebody to confirm, I'll just get some orange juice because my blood glucose is dropping. Well, actually, not really. One moment. Okay, back. Oh, it was for a while. How long did it freeze? Did you hear like my answer to Very Villains? I hope that I pronounced it Very Villains. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but if not, you can correct me. To the question about, you know, why people feel like singing on some days and not others. Well, I guess I spent long enough time on that you probably heard it. Anyway, wow, this live appears from nothing to me, and suddenly all the guys from VCH are here. Cheers, guys, miss you. Yeah, it's you know, for a while I was just getting no activity in this live stream, but then suddenly, you know, a lot of people are here. This is great. So yeah. Hi above there. Can you show me how Formant 2 crossover by harmonics 2? So like, I mean the F2H2 crossing. I'm not sure how much that will actually be noticeable, but you might get that happening when you're switching from an F2H2 tuned upper middle voice to head register. So if you're doing like an O vowel or something. Let's try F major. Oh, oh. Now I'm in F2H2 tuning, right? Oh, oh. It's still F2H2. Oh. Now I'm in group, right? And I'm probably losing the F2H2 there. Oh, oh, oh. Right. So that's a crossing you are asking about, I think. Not really something I have to think about usually. It's a but yeah, that would be the F2H2 crossing. It's possible you meant the F1H2 crossing, which is, you know, when yell timbre closes, right? If I have, hey, and I close that, hey, hey, right? That's the F1H2 crossing. So F2H2. Oh, oh, oh. Actually, maybe I should do it a bit higher. Let's do. I'm already getting into whoop here. Yeah, I don't know. It probably should happen here actually. Right. Let's see F2H2 and F1H2. Right, that's the F1H2. Or in falsetto. I don't know why I'm doing it so low. Maybe up here. That's also the F1H2 crossing. Right? So I hope that answers your question. Laringe stretta. Yeah, that would be the narrow larynx that Salvatore Fisichella advocates. I don't usually use the narrow larynx. I do sometimes. Oh, I lost all my viewers pretty much. Now I'm down to like three concurrent viewers. You all are too impatient. But not those of you who are still here. You're good. The ones that just like left because they were uninterested in one question. So I don't usually use the narrow larynx. Right? The narrow larynx is that this kind of quality, and I would usually keep it more flowy than that. I use the narrow larynx at the top there, right? Right? But I go back to the flowy quality. And sometimes I keep it flowy, even quite high in pitch, right? If I'm doing if I'm doing something belty and chesty. So if you care to find me, look to the western sky. You know, that's quite flowy still. Or tell them. What is the pitch there? To the western sky. Someone told me lately, everyone deserves a chance of life. Oh yeah, it's the fifth. Okay. Tell, you know, quite flowy there. Maybe I'd keep that in chest registers actually. Tell, but it's still flowy. But it's not. Tell. There's a narrow larynx. Tell. But I just do tell them away. You know, that's not a narrow larynx. So yeah, I don't usually do that. Yeah, so does quieted chest register have less low twang? I think so. Well, I think there's like basically two components of low twang. One seems to be about the tongue position, and the tongue position is almost the same. It's a little bit less extreme at lower volumes, but the low twang seems to be tied to some narrowing created with the tongue. And so that may be some sort of like impedance coupling thing happening. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, stream froze for a moment. Yeah, people talking about how they got me back. Oh, there's no more questions. Oh yeah, I'd like the F1H2. Can you please say something more about it? When are you doing another Q&A on Reddit? Well, so originally I was gonna do a CVT series, like I was gonna remake the CVT series after when it's done, but I've sort of changed my mind on that, so I'm probably not gonna redo the CVT series. I'm gonna proceed straight to the vocal styles and techniques series, which is gonna cover, you know, how to sing country ballads, how to sing rock, how to yodel, like the yodel singing style, you know, how to sing classical concert repertoire, how to sing bright pop tenors, stuff. Like it's gonna, like each video will be dedicated to a style, except there'll be a couple of videos in the beginning that talk about things like different kinds of brightness and different kinds of, you know, different stylistic parameters. But yeah, the next series will cover stuff like, you know, how to do your beauty is beyond compare with flaming locks of auburn hair, with iris skin and eyes of emerald green. Stuff like that. It will also cover how to do the fallen leaves drift by my window, and stuff like tell me why ain't nothing but a heartache. tell me why it ain't nothing but a mistake. You know, just explaining the different styles, not so much going into depth with the technique, but just the overall gist of what is the energy level like, how to achieve that energy level, what's the musicality like, is it like a bouncy musicality, is it legato, what are the onsets like, that sort of thing. You know, and like in a Chris Cornell style, for example, you'd have and in the early dawn, moving right along, couldn't buy an eye full of sleep. You know, this sort of this driven thin quality lower down, and then when it gets to the core, it gets into this massive belty style, that kind of thing. And yeah, you know, country stuff as well. I mean, sure, some country, but also like I'll probably do a video on yodeling, so that's gonna be fun. Like, I wanna be a cowboy sweetheart. I wanna learn to roam and ride. I wanna ride through the plains and the deserts, out west of the Great Divide. I wanna hear the coyotes sing as the sun sets in the west. I wanna be a cowboy sweetheart. That's a life I love the best. Yodeling, you know, this kind of thing. Lots of fun, which I can definitely recommend for people who haven't practiced it, because it helps overcome that fear of voice cracks that plagues a lot of singers. So yeah, practice yodeling and you'll feel a lot more liberated. Yeah. I like the F1H2. Can you please say something more about it? Do you mean like the F1H2 crossing or the F1H2 coupling? So the F1H2 coupling is this. Hey, hey, or oh, or even oh, right? That's F1H2. You could also do this in falsetto. You know, I wouldn't necessarily do this low in falsetto, but yeah, you can do it like that. And that's F1H2 coupling. That's the F1H2 coupling. But the crossing, right, is where the vowel closes a bit, or and then you usually switch to some other resonance tuning, like second form and third harmonic tuning would be the most obvious on O especially. Right, that's F2H3 at the top. So yeah, it's just about like tuning the resonant frequency of the first resonant frequency of the vocal track, this one. Right. Hopefully you can hear. Well, I guess you probably can't because it's too. Right, let me. So that's what I'm tuning to the octave overtone, but that's actually an instinctual resonance tuning. So you can basically just shout like, "Yo, hey," and then you have the F1H2 tuning, and then you can practice doing a riff with it. Hey, oh, that was sloppy. Hey, you know, you can extend that as you go higher. You'll want to basically make it more screamy. And then, you know, at some point the F1H2 tuning will just not be particularly viable anymore, and then you'll want to close it to F2H3. Something like that, and then you can cover by doing that a very wide range pretty easily. That's also what I do in. So I mean, usually I wouldn't sing the C5 open right here. Hey, and hey, hey. That would that's a little bit unreliable. I would go more narrow. Hey, hey. Already there. So, yeah. Anyway. When are you doing another Q&A on Reddit? Probably not anytime soon. So, oh yeah, that was what I was explaining. I was going to do a CVT, like a remake of the CVT series, and then after that, or well, both at the start and at the end of that, you know, I want to milk it as much as possible. I would do CVT Q&As. Maybe I would see if I can get away with doing some, you know, just Q&A as a voice teacher, because like I was using the CVT authorized teacher as an excuse to do the Q&A. And I think you mean inhalare la voce. Would love to see a demonstration on inhalare la voce. So this is a bit of a mysterious term, I guess. I think it's probably just referring to getting the tracheal tug really. So when you breathe in, the diaphragm lowers, right? And it actually pulls on these thin bands of tissue called fascia that are attached to the trachea, and it pulls the trachea downwards and the whole larynx with it. So as you breathe in like that, your voice will seem to sort of open up. A whole bunch of other terms like that. And I think it refers to some mysterious tradition that has one definite meaning, and it's like this secret skill that has been passed down in generations from like master to apprentice, like in a fantasy movie or something. It's like that's not how it works. It's just like these just literally cues that you know, like arpeggio, for example, literally just means lean. So there's like literally if you're telling a student to lean, that's a word you use, right? And you know, there's any number of reasons why you might want to tell a student to lean. Maybe you're referring to a literal lean, like literally leaning forwards or leaning backwards. You would call that, you describe that by the word arpeggio, because that's a word for leaning. Or maybe you mean something else. Maybe you mean something more symbolic, or you mean like, you know, people talk about like leaning the breath against its chest. Again, this is just a visual, like a visualization. It doesn't refer to, it doesn't have some one standard meaning, that like a very clear, definite meaning. There are people who will try to convince you that it does, that there's this one secret to arpeggio, and if you watch this video or you buy this course, we will teach you like the ancient, almost lost Italian secret of arpeggio breathing. And that's nonsense. That's just BS marketing. There's no such thing. It's just like, these are just terms that some Italian-speaking voice teachers have found useful as cues when helping out their students, right, when teaching their students. And then, you know, people, like some cues will sort of recur a lot, and people just latch onto those cues and like attribute some secret esoteric meaning to it. But like, yeah, don't pay attention to any of that. It doesn't matter. So yeah. Any tips for a quiet chest register? Start from loud chest register and then make it bright and then make it quiet. So usually when I teach chest register, it's this progression of exercises. I start with voice register breaking exercise. It goes like this. Ah, ooh, ah, right? And then I do, and I have people take that gradually down in pitch. That's just to relax the larynx, open up the jaw, all of that stuff, all of that good stuff, and to activate the TA muscles. Then I proceed to a relaxed chest register exercise like this. Ya 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 ya. And then I do an energetic chest register exercise. Ya 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 ya. Right. And then once the student is proficient at this, at some point I will have them do a bright version. Ya 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 ya. Ya 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 ya. And I'll take it all the way up to here. Ya 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 ya. First one failed a bit, went too core register at the top. But once you can do that, I just have you sing in this bright quality for a while, you know, like tell me why ain't nothing but a heartache. Tell me why ain't nothing but a mistake. Or maybe treat you better than he can, and then he can like you deserves a gentleman. Tell me why we wasting time on all you know, that kind of stuff. And once you've got the hang of that and you're fluent at this at a fairly loud volume, right, that's when it's time to practice doing it more quietly. And you want to start with the loud version and then do a diminuendo while opening the mouth and raising the larynx. And that's a little counterintuitive, right? Because normally, if you have this note and you want to make it quieter, you would do this. Now it's restrained. And you want to do the opposite. You want to not close the mouth. You want to raise the larynx and open the mouth. Now it's still unrestrained. Right? Like this. So actually, when you're speaking, when you're in that quiet chest register, it requires even more mouth movement. So yeah, and when you're practicing applying that to a song, like, proud of your boy, I'll make you proud of your boy. Believe me, bad as I've been, you're in for a pleasant surprise. You will find that your cheeks will go sore. Like when you're first practicing this, you'll find that it's really a workout for your cheeks, and they will actually you'll feel actually your entire facial attractiveness. That's another advantage of singing. So yeah. Any idea why mixed voice is way easier for me when laying in bed? Less valsalva maybe. So if you're used to adding a lot of this, right? Maybe not as much as that. That's an exaggeration. But if you're doing like it's hard. Like even though there's restraint, the valsalva will just overpower the restraint. There's a certain level of valsalva that just prevents mixed voice. That was actually why I had such trouble with mixed voice at first. I had too much valsalva. And then eventually I had too little valsalva for mixed voice. Well, I mean, you can do mixed voice without valsalva, but for like at louder volumes, if you're on a metallic mixed voice, you typically need a touch of valsalva, or at least a touch of active TA activity beyond what would be required for just the superlogic impedance. So for example, I was practicing this song that goes, if the world only knew. My energy levels are really not there today. If the world only knew what and my voice isn't there, but whatever. I was practicing this, and I kept running into, and I wanted it to be in mixed voice, so I wanted it to be more like, if the world only knew what I could do, right? And what I kept getting was this, if the world only, it was either cracking or it was very, very weak. And the problem was basically I didn't have any TA activity. And adding in the TA activity basically fixes that aspect. But you can do that without valsalva, right? So the straightforward way of adding the TA activity is a bit of a if the world only knew what I could do, then I'd tell a different story. And that's a but there's another way to get the TA activity. Instead of you go he, right? That's also TA activity. Oh, hang on, that was both. I was doing both there. If the world only knew what I could do. And you hear it sounds a little bit brighter. So that's the difference between those two. The valsalva approach is a little bit darker. Where is the brightness coming from? From the brightest chest register. Wider tongue, higher tongue, and higher larynx, especially the higher larynx. And the upper lip being way up here, right? Yeah. It's a little bit of a silly sound. It's like this, right? If I talk in it, it sounds like this. So yeah. Does a woman singer's voice come to mind? Maybe a particular song which is in the area between G4 to C5 or higher, but sounds nice and easy. No shouting. Yeah, I mean there are a lot of songs like that. Let me see about the range itself. I mean, there's different. It can be some sort of Ariana Grande songs or something. but most of her songs are way higher than that, of course. But there's definitely some in this range. But or maybe like some Avril Lavigne songs. Yeah, it's like. Or if you need something that's not even in mixed voice, but just in in using falsetto, you could use well, I guess mixed voice and falsetto. You could use something like "Part of Your World" from The Little Mermaid. How does it go? That you unlearned, they understand, but they don't reprimand their daughters. Bright young women, sick of swimming, ready to stand and ready to know what the people know. This kind of thing. And I mean, she does it more mixy than that. Or you could do When You Believe from Prince of Egypt. That's such a beautiful song. I love it so much. Many nights we've prayed with no proof anyone could hear. In our hearts a hopeful song we barely understood. Now we are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear. We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. There can be miracles. Let me see. Normally I don't sing it in this key. I would normally sing it in this key. Many nights we've prayed with no proof anyone could hear. In our hearts a hopeful song we barely understood. Now we are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear. We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles? It gets a bit more shouty later on. Although there's this beautiful middle part that's in Hebrew. Ashira Adonai ki gauga, Ashira Adonai ki gauga, Miramu hapaeli Adonai, Miramu haneda vakudesh, Nachita v'chasta amtugalta. And apologies if there are any Hebrew speakers butchering it. I don't think I'm butchering it, but I might be. So yeah, it's but it does get shouty later on when it when it really builds up and opens up and becomes more. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles? It opens up like that. But you can just sing that part more similar to the earlier part, or you can just open up less or something. In mixed voice, first you will use to constrict CA or CT. What sequence? Don't even worry about these things. Just make it a strong sound, right, and slightly restrained. Start from chest voice, right? Start from. Actually, it usually helps to start from sharp register, which is does that count as chest voice or mixed voice? Sort of borderline, right? But if you do yo, and then you add a sharp there, yo, ho, you have something that's a little bit, it's a little bit mellow, but it's not quite restrained yet. Oh, it's not quite this. It's more like this, like a wailing sound. And you can use that as a stepping stone between chest voice and mixed voice, right? Yo, or even yo, right? That's the way I would recommend finding mixed voice for the first time. And then from there, see if you can get the oral. oh, yo, oh. And then you just do mixed voice exercises. Go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. Right. And then you practice switching between chest voice and mixed voice. This is really important. You gotta practice landing back in chest voice. So you wanna basically practice this pathway. This is chest register, right? This is core register. That's mixed voice at the top. You want to practice that. That's really important. Like if you're doing something like, I don't know, unravel. And now I'm turning to dust in a world that's twisted. Don't come searching when I go missing. Close your eyes or just try to look away. You want to find notes like that way there that make it easy to land in chest voice. Just so you don't get too stuck in mixed voice. This was the lower key, of course, than ordinary, than the original key. But yeah, whatever. Let's see. Private chest register is hilarious. I know, it's like very, and it's very, like, it's very adorable as well. Like children's TV presenter energy. Exactly. Also, would you recommend anyone to try some more classical vocals? I've truly listened to classical singing for the first time since starting my singing journey, and I was very impressed. Yes, for sure. You know, my own classical singing, I have trouble with like the upper part of the classical tenor range, but if I do, you know, I can sort of get up to the A4 just fine. But let's do that one. In una smarfial singhiazza il dolor ridi ballaccio sulla giova in tralcio. You know, so that would be more the dramatic kind of classical singing. But you could also do like some easier, some you know, art songs or something, like some John Dowland songs. Fine necks for ladies, cheap choice brave and new, good penny worth, but money cannot move. I keep a fair, but for the fair to view, a beggar may be liberal of love. Messed up that note. I keep a fair, but for the fair to view, a beggar may be liberal of love. Though all my wares be trash, the heart is true, the heart is true, the heart is true. Or you could do something like something more neoclassical, a modern classical-esque composition, like. Something like that. Any exercise for belting G4s as a male. Just start by the yo, hey kind of thing, and then do yo, hey, and practice the golden registration exercise. That should be a very good start. So yeah, and that's, you know, that's what you need for something like Take Me to Church or All of Me or something. Like if you can do that, you can do a lot of stuff. No masters or kings when the ritual. Well, you also need a strong chest register for this. When the ritual begins, there is no sweeter innocence than our gentle sin. In the madness and toil of their shatteredly seen. Only then I am human. So yeah, and of course the take me to church. That part is also belted G-force. So yeah, or go the distance from Hercules, which I was singing earlier. I will face the world, fearless, proud and strong. I will please the gods. I can go the distance till I find my heroes will come right where I belong. By the way, do a sustain like that, where you do it with a straight tone first, and then the vibrato afterwards. The trick I use for that is to throw off the resonance tuning a little. In this case, I darkened it a bit. Sometimes I will brighten it a bit. But you want to basically be not squarely in yell timbre, right? So if I do yell timbre, no, and no, no. But if I close that a bit, no, 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 no. It's very easy to hold it as a straight tone then. No, because it basically gets slightly pressed. And then then by closing it a bit, I get the opportunity to gradually open it up on the sustain and let the vibrato come in that way. So yeah. Maybe an exercise for strengthening my reinforced falsetto. So reinforced falsetto usually connotes the kind you'd use in rock singing, right? Where it's like, what's a good example of that off the top of my head? I don't know, like... Have to know my Lord, have to know my Lord. Why should I die? So that G5 there, right? That would be a typical reinforced falsetto. I'd say for that, especially in this range, you just want a strong F2 H2 tuning, and that will usually do the trick. And it helps to think of an O, but make it a very snarly O. But if that's not what you mean by reinforced falsetto, which I suspect it isn't, because this isn't really the style of music I hear you sing. If you mean something else, I'm not quite sure what you'd mean then. So what's the B in belong? What's the B in belong in Hercules group tempo? Yes. To try. Here I'm in a yell-tuned, approximately yell-tuned chord register. It's actually a little bit more open. I, B, B. That's a whoop-tuned chest register. I, B, B. So yeah, that's whoop timbre. Is reinforced falsetto just a light mix? No, not quite. So there are some cases where I'd use a light mix for this, and some cases where I'd use a reinforced falsetto. So if I'm coming up from here, I would use a light mix because it's just easier to stay in mix voice than to switch. So if I'm like, let me see. Go, 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 go. Right, that's a light mix. Whoa! But if I'm just going for the G5 on its own, or if I don't have the C5 or something, or if the C5 is lighter, then falsetto might be easier, right? If I'm doing the falsetto doesn't really have the restrained quality necessarily. I guess you could restrain it. But then it gets a bit lame, right? So I wouldn't restrain it. A non-breathy falsetto. So basically, what you need for that is, I suggest starting with head register actually, and doing woo, woo. Take that down in pitch until you can get it down here. Woo, woo, woo. Use the vocal tract shaping to make it clear. Don't do it with the larynx. You don't need the ooh, ooh, ooh. this won't help. Ooh, ooh, this, ooh. Then go to E from there, but a dark E. Ooh, keeping the spaciousness. Then you make it as bright as you can without completely losing the spaciousness. Right? And then you work on scales there. Then you open to an R or an A or something while keeping as much of the depth and brightness as you can. And up here, you need F2H3 tuning. It's just like, it's necessary. Otherwise, you'll be doing, actually, for choral singing, maybe you don't. But for solo singing, you will need F2H3 tuning here. Because otherwise, you'll be going, and we want to be able to do, that kind of thing. That wasn't the best demonstration. Oh, I had gotten sharp. You want to be able to do that. Why does CVT describe twang as epilaryngeal tube narrowing, yet edge seems to be about fringindal narrowing instead, though they also use the word twang for it? It's just like CVT being sloppy. There are unfortunately a great many of things like this in CVT. It's not great. You can't necessarily trust what CVT is saying on isolated facts like that. So yeah, I'm probably about to end the stream, but I'll give people a few minutes to like get in some last minute questions. Any last minute questions? Should we always focus on keeping depth in our singing? No, not necessarily. So I'd say depth tends to go along, like the physical sense of having depth in your voice tends to go along with the spacious timbres and less with the sharp timbres. So I'd say for chest register, you don't want depth. You want to, I froze again, I think. My internet is so bad. Not back yet. Yeah, again, seems back. I don't know. So yeah, so in chest register you don't want depth basically. Well, you want the sound. You want the sound to have like qualities of depth in terms of sonorary characteristics, but physically you don't want to feel like there's any depth in the sound. You want to feel like it's narrow and focused. Or maybe like broad but still sharp, right? Broad and focused, broad but coming to a point, something like that. It's not like this big, rotund sound. That's more call register. I find there is a buzz when I do loud chest register that disappears when going quieter, but it's like a switch. Yeah, it should disappear more gradually than that. And as you go breathy, as the volume decreases to the point of breathiness, the breathiness should resemble the buzz in terms of frequency range. So if I do you hear how bright the breathiness is, right? It's not like no, let me compare it to a bright sound with a dark breathiness. Right, there's a darker breathiness. even if I make the sound darker, the breathiness stays bright. Ah, 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 ah. And as I increase the volume, the buzz comes in. Ah. So yeah. Let me see. Should I learn some basic piano while you're at it, or is guitar sufficient? I recommend, it's always useful to be able to do both. So yeah, I recommend both. But I mean, one is sufficient, yes. La voce, many times I found it works. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about there. La voce just means the voice. I mean, the buzz turns off like a switch. Yeah, it shouldn't turn off like a switch. It should be gradual. I do it, I don't know. It's true. It's in some range where I have wider dynamic range. Right? I can do different degrees of buzz. I can do a little buzz. Let's do that here. There's some buzz, right? Or even less. There's only a tiny bit. I can do a moderate amount. There's a moderate amount, right? Or I can do a lot. Right. So it shouldn't be a switch. It should be gradual. Although I think this was assisted by like the compressor I use, which is saturating the louder ones a bit. What's your opinion on Tom York? I keep forgetting who that is. Too many Toms. Too many people who are called Tom. Radiohead, right? I gotta say, I don't really listen to Radiohead. So I couldn't really tell you. So yeah, but I don't know. You can drop a link in the Discord, and I can listen to it. But now the messages are rolling in. I guess there's a delay in my stream compared to when you're seeing it, because I'm getting these responses a lot after already, like a while after I already looked it up. But yeah, anyway, I'm probably about to pop off so I can cook some dinner. It's a late dinner. But yeah, anyway, Deepesh Sartharia, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. If you want to like clarify the question, I'll just give you a moment to do that. Also, I recommend practicing songs with a lot of arpeggios for like general skills at intonation and registration and agility and so on. My question is, big singers have no hard work. Yeah, it's like you can sing with low effort, right? So there are some people who be singing. I wouldn't say all big singers do this. There are some that use a lot of effort, but there are also some that use very little effort. Like usually people have a fair bit of Valsalva in the high range, right? If you're doing like belting out the climax of Defying Gravity, for example. So if you care to find me, look to the western sky. A lot of it will be right, but you can also just do. So if you care to find me, look to the western sky. As someone told me lately, everyone deserves a chance to fly. Now, what I would recommend for this is practice to keep your head raised, your shoulders down, and onsets very nonchalant. So not or anything like that. Just You should be able to just like off the cuff of your head, of the. This isn't sound right. Anyway, you should be able to just do that like it's nothing, right? Or, close your eyes or just try to look away. You should be able to just hit these notes with no preparation. The more different coordinations and wider ranges you can do this, the more reliable your skill set is. And if you can do that without tensing up, without doing this with your shoulders and without doing this with your elbows, or like this is another one I see a lot, right? Head tilts down and shoulders pull up like this. You want to not do any of that. You want to be able to just do this and sing like that. Tell them how I am defying gravity. I'm flying. My ear valve is not working well today. I'm flying high. I'm flying high, defying gravity, and soon I'll match them in renown. You wanna be able to sing with this quality of this laughter and ease, and helps to keep the head up like that. On this voice, then, while singing, and reason behind this is voce, inalare la voce. So I mean that's about the spaciousness, but that's not the only way you can get your singing to be effortless, right? Even if you're doing something like, if I'm doing something like, proud of your boy, I'll make you proud of your boy. Believe me, bad as I've been, you're in for a pleasant surprise. There's no inalare la voce there, right? I'm not doing the tracheal chug. Proud of your boy, I'll make you proud of your boy. Inalare la voce, if anything, has more to do with singing loudly. It's not really about effortless singing. It's about loud singing. You breathe in, and then you sing on the breathing, on the inspiratory position, right? This is just a relaxed position. If you sing on that, that's usually what you'll be doing for contemporary singing, right? What would be an example? Well, I mean, what I just did would be an example. Believe me, bad as I've been, you're in for a pleasant surprise. I'm not doing this on the position of inhalation, right? My shoulders are forged like this, my rib cage is closed, there's no, if I do this and I sing on that position, proud of your boy, I'll make you proud of your boy. It makes it sound louder, but also now it sounds like opera. So inalare la voce, that's an opera thing. It's to an extent also a belting thing. It's not something you want to use for like bright pop tenor singing. And it's not something you want to use for like bright light singing. This is like, you want to use inalare la voce for powerful, dramatic singing, and still, even then, mostly in the high range. So inalare la voce is singing on the position of inhalation. So if I sing a phrase not on the position of inhalation, but just, it's quite bright. If I do it on the position of inhalation, right now it sounds classical. So that's what inalare la voce is. It's the thing that makes the voice sound classical and really powerful. If you're not referring to singing on the position of inhalation, which is loud, right? It's like if you're breathing in for a yawn and you like try to speak through it, you start sounding like this and the voice gets really loud, right? That's for the inhalation, right? Then the yawn sends around like this, right? But on the way in, it gets louder. That's what it is. Anyway, I'm gonna end the stream now. Thank you all for joining, and thanks for the awesome questions and all of that, and your continued support. I will hopefully get the 2K sub special out next Sunday. If not, then the Sunday after.
But yeah, anyway.